Thanks for joining us today. This is our monthly office Zoom call. I'm trying to do one of these a month that lasts an hour. We'll do them about the middle of the month. And thanks for joining us today. So today, we're going to have Mark Klaus is with us. He is our energy circuit writer. Is that the right title, Mark?
Energy efficiency circuit writer. Yeah,
Energy
something
efficiency
like that.
circuit writer. Yeah. And he's going to give us a presentation today on what he's finding with his energy audits. And I think some of you will find, most of you, all of you find some good information here. So if you have a question, you can ask it or open your chat box. Again, that's along the bottom of your screen. There's a line of icons there, and hit the chat and open up your chat box, and you can type your question in, and we'll monitor those and answer them as we go along for Mark. So Mark, I'm going to let you take over, and Mark's going to share his screen and do a PowerPoint.
Good morning. First off, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you for the time that you're providing for us to talk about energy efficiency. We're going to just basically talk about the items that we're going to do a very basic overview of. We're not going to get into the nuts and bolts. Basically, we will be talking about things that we see on the bills. Part of this job is obtaining 12 months worth of electrical bills for each location in your community. It really is supposed to be limited to water and wastewater. We like to go ahead and just say, you know what, let's just check everything, because we're finding a few other things along the way that are helpful. There are people on this Zoom meeting that have participated in the program. Some of them were some of the very first ones that I got to work with. And I will say to everyone who has done it, thank you so much for your kindness. It has been quite the learning curve. I started out as an operator, no different than most people in our industry, and worked for DNR for many years. And I came out and I got into a whole different field. And this is the great thing about this, is the learning curve. It's like we all get sort of to where we just do the same thing. So it was great to come out of DNR and go to work for rural water. I'm not going to say much more than that, but getting into the energy efficiency, been at it for about 2 years. That's a brief overview. I would say it's gotten better. So we're going to look at billing anomalies. We see taxes. We are still seeing 1 out of every 5 systems that we work with, there's at least 1 facility that's getting taxed. It might be a new one that just got entered into the system. We see late fees. We're going to talk about consolidating billing. We're going to also talk about energy use, kilowatt hours versus the cost, and how the different rates affect different things. We will also address rebates and, as one company calls them, incentives. Then we also will discuss a bit about the price per 1,000 gallons of water. We normally sell in units of 1,000, or we process in units of 1,000. That's a standard measure. So we can figure that out. Then we can put money to our water loss, brings us to 10% is this much. So we can put a number to it. There's going to be more on that. So as the clerks, office professionals, as I really want to say, we get the bills. We're the gatekeepers. The bills come to us. We handle that. You guys do, guys and ladies. And it can be this is what we see. We have an Ameren bill. We have two of them there. One is like a single locational bill, and the one on the other side, it is a consolidated bill. We'll discuss that further, but if you look down on the bottom right corner, it's page 1 of 20 pages. That's a lot to go through. Then we have Touchstone Energy Group. You can tell by the logos. Let's see if I can, yeah, you can see the logos. We have them all over the state, and there's other ones besides that. But their bills are most of these are electric co-ops. Their bills are very straightforward, easy to understand. Love to work with these bills. The thing we notice about the electric co-ops, their customer service fees seem to be higher than most, but their electrical rates are very good. Then we have the formerly KCP&L, which is now Evergy. KCP&L, they're dandies. If we look at it, they have like up here, we see the demand charges, and they have a seasonal demand charge. This location actually had 3 different energy rates and 3 different seasonal energy rates. So those are really fun to work with. It was purchased by Evergy. It's gotten much better to work with. Evergy has like acronyms, DSIM, I'll read those. Demand side investment mechanism, FAC, fuel adjustment charge, and then they have RESRAM, renewable energy standard rate adjustment mechanism. So anybody who's got Evergy knows all about that. So not only are we paying for our meter fees or customer service or service availability, we're paying for their energy use. We may have demand charges. We may have seasonal charges. And then there's a bunch of other things tacked on. And some of these bills are very detailed. And all I can say is I'm still learning, and there's things that surprise me every single day at every single location. It has been such a great learning curve. In addition to that, I get to meet a lot of great people. It's really nice to be working for rural water. People accept you quite easily. They're very friendly and nice. And so the big thing that we're going to recommend, and let's make this clear. You know, we used to have a lot more people that were working with us, but now we have to do more with less. And actually we used to be able to do more with more. Then it became, well, we need to reduce expenditure. So we have to reduce number of full-time employees. We have to reduce it. So we're doing more with less. That means that the office professionals are doing more and more, and more and more is getting dumped on them. And it just gets to be much. So I really don't want to propose adding extra work, but if it's possible, charting your bills, and you would not have to do, this is what we do. I like to put everything out there so we can sort of see it, so we can see every single charges that are on there. You would basically, if I was charting it, if I was a water operator and my clerk were to give me the bills, we'll talk about, well, let's just go there. It would be a great thing for the operators, the superintendent, or somebody, if you guys could make a copy of the bills for them and let them look at it so they see what's going on. They may notice some things that we may not notice. And I can tell you this next slide is a perfect example. Top left, we look at the billing chart for this. The lady that we worked with on this one, we noted this. I said, look, there's something going on this location here that just jumped up. Oh yeah, that's a lift station. We had some problems, and I tried to get him to pay attention to that, but this is why it would be a good idea if it's it's not just your word for it. It's basically, here's the bill. It's like, it's jumped up drastically. Would you please go check it? You know, some people don't have that kind of good working relationship, but if that's one way to reinforce what you're trying to do, it's going to help you. It's going to help them, especially the operators, knowing that something has jumped up dramatically. That's going to help them to know that they need to take care of it. Here's examples of where operators receive the bills or they look at it. They put up signs, don't turn on the lights unless you really need them. Another one, this one here is they actually hang this up in their room for the control panels for everything, where they have to turn things on and off and adjust the settings. They hang a bill up, the last month's bill, they hang it up just to let people know this is how much our electricity is costing us every month. Last month it was this much. It's sort of like in their culture that they're saying, look, we need to be aware of this. What are we doing? If you have ideas what we can do to save energy, you bet. So that's one of the things where strongly suggest it. If you can, chart it. If not, even, and then also share the bills, make copies for them. They may not want it. They may or may not. Okay, it's up to you. It's just more, once again, I'm not wanting to add additional work onto you. The other thing is, we would be more than happy to begin a chart for anybody to help them. So if they going forward, just to get the groundwork laid for them, be glad to help assist on that. Charting, we notice a lot of things like billing anomalies. These two locations are from the same community, same electric company. The amazing thing is, if you look over here in the top, whoops, it's very touchy. If you look over there in the charting part, you're going to see that consistently it's $77 a month. $32 for service charge. Electrical charge is $45 exactly, but the kilowatt usage is different. There's something not quite kosher there. We know the same thing on our water bills. Occasionally we will have some glitch in the computer program. The next one over on the other side, wow, $77 every single month. And we have a service charge, once again, of $32. That's your meter fee. And the electrical charges are exactly $45 a month. I'm unable to, well, let me see if I can minimize that. There we go. The electrical usage, I don't know about you guys, unless this is just lighting, that is such consistent energy use. It's really unusual. Let's say that way. That would be something that both of those would be like, let's monitor that and see what's going on. Good idea there. Here's another one, another billing anomaly. Once again, you notice how it locks into 101.25. We have different amounts of energy charges, different amounts of energy uses. Then they have a demand charge, and everything just magically works out that it comes up for what, 5-6 months out of the year, exactly the same amount. But then the other month, it's like way off. The one thing I will say, that bill is lower on those 6 months than it is any other month. So it might be good to find out, but I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to sound bad. Okay. This one here is we chart things out. On this one, it really comes out big time. They're getting charged state taxes, county taxes, city taxes, a franchise tax, and their total taxes. So they're out of the total of that in that 12 months, they paid about $290 in taxes. We've seen anywhere from, we've questioned like a $500, and that was just for the water and wastewater. They worked with their electrical company. They got an $1,800 refund check. We've had some that have gotten like $600 or $800 in credit for electricity, which they used up in like a a month, month and a half. We had one system that was getting $3 ballpark a month in taxes at one of the 10, 15 locations they had. Their electrical co-op did a wonderful thing. They went back 20 years, which is totally unheard of. They got about $600 check from their electrical company. We see this quite often. Some of them, they'll just stop it. Some of them will offer you, if you don't ask, you don't, the answer is always no. You should always ask, okay, you're going to shut it off. Can I get a refund from that? And a lot of times the electrical company will say, yes, we will. One of the things that we've recently seen just on cold calls, that means we're just going in and asking if we could do this for the community. We actually saw where a public water supply district was charging, their billing company was charging a city sales tax on the wholesale water that they were selling to that city. I believe the lady got that squared away. I know she did because I've talked to her. We have not done the assessment for them. We'll discuss that a little bit more. Here's another one, city license fee, city licensing fee, city franchise fee. You can see right there it was $568 in that short of time, about 6 months, maybe 7 months. They had $568 in licensing fees. They had some state taxes and some county taxes. Think about the license fee or franchise fee. The city or community or the water district will normally get that money back. It can be monthly, whatever your payback period is on your license or franchise fee, you will get that back, but you are giving them money to have them pass it back to you. Now, the question I have for you is, if you're really into all of that, I would be really happy to hold your money for a month or 2 or 6 months or a year and take care of it and then give it back to you in that time period. Otherwise, wouldn't you rather prefer to keep it in your own pocket? Well, the same goes for your community. This is one of the nice ones. This is what really makes the job great. We get to give compliments out. This one here is the lady, they were collecting state and county taxes, roughly about $670. She worked with the electric company to get the sales tax eliminated, and they got a refund. You would be surprised how thrilled people are to get a chunk of money like that just shows up. They have a franchise. Basically, well, let's go here. I want to make note of this. We get to write this in our report that she worked with the company to eliminate it and obtain a refund. And we get to thank her for the diligence. She did a great job. It's really fun to find things and say, here you go, and watch people do it. And it's like getting to watch your kid take their first steps. Sometimes it's really gratifying, or going out with your friend and watching them do well, going hunting or fishing. You know, it's not always about yourself. It's really about seeing other people succeed. Okay, they have a franchise ordinance. We recommend, excuse me, that your community or your district modifies the franchise ordinance, exempting yourself from franchise fees or city taxes. Basically, they paid themselves roughly about, well, they didn't pay themselves. They paid the electrical company roughly $2,500 in franchise fees. And that includes all their lift stations, city offices, street lights, and the water plant and the wells. Their wastewater plant is out of town, so it is outside of the city boundaries, so it's not charged a franchise tax. Those fees are routinely returned. Okay, here's another part of that. Their water plant, and they have wells that are located in another community. inside the boundaries of another community, and they're billed that community's franchise fees. They basically paid over $1,000 a year, and they're still doing it, as far as I know, in that city's franchise fees. We recommend that the two entities work together to eliminate franchise fees for the system that, for the community that has the water plant and the wells, and the other communities' boundaries. I don't know where that went. Yeah, so those franchise fees, and now that money they will not get back. That goes into the other communities' funds. Late fees. Wow, late fees here is really interesting. Let me see something else. I want to make sure I didn't miss something. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I want to go back here. This one here, I forgot to mention this. What we also find a lot on this one where it says taxes, if you look, there is no energy use whatsoever. There is no energy use. There's no energy charges. This is 6 months ballpark. All the bill is the monthly meter charge and the taxes. We see this more than we would expect. A lot of communities will shut off electricity to a location and they retain the bill for the metering fees. For us, it's like a slam dunk. It's like, look, you can save this much money. You have to have the electric company come out and pull that meter. Otherwise, you're going to continue to pay your monthly service charge, your meter fees, service availability. You will continue to pay that. That's more common than even I would have thought. A lot of times there may be, now the flip side of that is we have a location that we have like a place where Santa Claus shows up. It's around the holidays. We may have we may use it. It's a historical site. It's going to cost you more to have the meter pulled and then to have them come back out and put a new meter in than to just pay the monthly charge. It's one of those that we would have to weigh out. But we do see that a lot where there's a service charge, but there's no electrical use. We like to call that to their attention. Now we get to the late fees. This one here is sort of bothering for me, partly because, and it's not against the clerks or the office professionals. What I have a problem with is, I have a problem with like the electric companies. Sometimes I just don't understand it. And you will see this here in a little bit later. Notice how this is just occasionally they have the late fees, like every third or fourth month. And in this 12-month period, it came up to like $127 ballpark. Here's another one, same type of thing, just every third or fourth month, $170. Now here's one, this is where you're gonna hear me go off a little bit. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, if you're working for the electric company. Sorry, but here's a typical bill. This one is approximately 18 pages long. If you look on the side here, you're going to see all the various charges. We erase the locations. I try not to show the location, who it is, or anything like that, because that isn't fair. I treat this like it would be my own personal data, my own personal information. I don't like to show this to anybody else. So I worked for DNR for 20 some years. It's all about privacy and handling paperwork correctly. So this one is like 18 pages long. You can see the list. Then each page on this list, it has a locations and it breaks down. It has their gas use in hundreds of cubic feet. They also have kilowatt hours. So you're looking at this bill. So this is what it looks like on this one here. It shows the reading, the number, the amount used. Then it goes to summary, natural gas service billing, metered electrical service. Oh, wait, there's miscellaneous charges detail. First off, let me ask you this. Do you have time to go through 18 pages of bill uninterrupted without being disturbed, that you can actually get it, dive into the details this deep? If you do, congratulations. Most people do not. So we're looking down here. So this is minimal on the late fees. It's like $5 total. Here's the next, another page. Once again, you see how it is miscellaneous. Here's a late fee, 23 cents. And let's go to the lighting. So as we look at it, we look at here and it says, this is what it is, and this is how much it's going to cost. Okay. So they have that. Then they go through, this is on one page. They continue the billing on the next page, and it goes through all of the lighting, how many of each type and location. And they didn't even consolidate that. Okay. So they have all of that. Then underneath all of that miscellaneous charges, $34. So then it says your total. So unless you go through that, all you're going to look at is going to be, whoops, the front page, and you're going to see this is what it is. And it's like, you know, that's about what it is every month. You know, it's good. This is the amount we're going to have to pay. We're going to pay this much, $7,000. We're good. But we're missing this. Here's the part where the icing goes off the cake and we throw it out. This is all on the same page of page X of 18. Sorry, I'm going to get on the soapbox here. We have a $34 late miscellaneous fee, but on the one below it, what happened? We don't have that late fee. Wait a minute. This is all on the same bill. What's going on? So you can sort of see where I'm coming from. I'm sorry, but that's one that just sort of gets under my skin. I'm sorry, but that almost feels like some people are set up to fail, and I don't care for that. Sorry, I'm getting off my personal box. So how do we play the game? So we would try to get all our bills consolidated onto the same date. Even if it's an 18, 20 page bill, we want all of those bills to be due at each location on the same time. If we get multiple bills monthly, 3, 4, 5, 15 monthly, can we consolidate those? And I will say this, we talked about it at some locations and they say, look, we would like to do that, but basically we need time between bills to get our reserves back up to make the payment. So we have to have 3 separate billing dates for various locations because we don't have enough money. If we were to consolidate, we could not do it. If we can't consolidate it, great. If you're unable to, understand, been there myself many years, and it's like I can still remember that as yesterday. It was not fun. You got to do what you got to do. The other thing is the monthly billing date. Some communities do not allow their office professionals to make a payment without the board and council approval. This is understandable in some places. With all of the things going on, it's very easy to understand. We've seen a lot of crazy stuff. I've been surprised myself. However, if we can have one monthly billing date and we have to go through our board and council, if our board and council is the 3rd Thursday of the month, every month, let's figure out the latest time that it would be on this coming year. Let's figure out the date. If it's the 27th, we'll just use that one for example. It's probably not correct, but it's the 3rd Thursday. We would like to have our billing date after that and enough time to get through the mail if we have to mail it. Because a lot of places don't allow us to use a credit card to pay our bills online. Some places have automatic draft withdrawals. They automatically pay it. If we have to mail that in, and especially lately with the things going on with the post office, I would want to have a grace period from the time that our last bill is to our billing date, or from our last council meeting to our billing date, to our due date. That way we have time to present it to the council, say this is what it is, and we need to get approval, and then we take care of that. So that's that. On the monthly billing date, bill consolidation. On the taxes, if we find taxes, that's usually a good thing for the community because there's a positive outcome on that. Late fees, that can be a very tricky situation. As a former community employee, you know, there's some people that are just sort of, I like to address it personally with the office professional and say, look, I don't know if you know this, but there's late fees here. I don't like to make it big production about it unless it's like what we looked at, like how did we get a late fee on page 1? The saddest part is on that one, there was another community close by and they had like $5 of late fees, and it was due to the same exact thing, the billing. And it's like, this isn't fair to the office professional. As you know, there's a lot of people that, let's just put it like this, I don't want to put anybody in a spot. And I did that time, and that was a great learning experience. And I even tried to explain it to the administrator, to the mayor, and it just didn't go anywhere. It just seemed like there was blood in the water. And that was a great learning experience. So no, I don't like to see anybody get into trouble, especially if they're doing a great job. That's not fair. Okay, other items that we see on bills, we see items like Operation Roundup. Operation Roundup is like we round our bills up to the next dollar and it goes to charity. I don't have a problem with this. There are people in the world that would have a problem with something like this. We're using government funds to support a charity. And even those Operation Roundups, it's local for local communities. It's going to be only good for there. But if you see this, this is one of those that we pull people off to the side and say, look, this is what's going on. You may reconsider this and you may want to have that dropped off. And just because it could cause some grief down the road. That's all. That's a heads up for everybody. Now let's get to some really fun stuff. This is the kilowatt use versus the amount of cost. As we look at this chart, obviously highlighted in red, or circled or squared up in red, is the park. If we look at that, the lift station used like 13,000, about 14,000. Their bill was about $1,200. They're getting charged 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Their total bill was $1,431. But the next one down is the park. They used more, and it was only a little bit more. And when we do these bills, the funnest part is when you're doing it, it's like, oh my God, I made a big mistake. And you go back through until we realize that most of the energy at the park was in the winter months, and they're getting billed at the winter rate. And it came out to roughly 6.6 cents per kilowatt hour. And that's why it was so reduced. Their seasonal rate saved them over, if they would have had to pay regular rates, it would have been over $450. The next one is the one that just, this is crazy. This is their chart. We like to put these charts in the assessment report, so you can have it. It's right there handy, so you can look and say, this is how much we used at each location. This city hall has 2-metered electrical services. Most 99.9% of the time, we try to show the savings by consolidating and eliminating one electrical meter, because you're paying like a two $20 meter or service availability or customer fees or meter fees. This one is totally different. I have never seen a heating rate before. Never saw. They only get charged. If we read that below, they have 2 metered electrical services, a small secondary general voltage, standard rates, $23 a month for service. And they pay roughly about 10 cents per kilowatt, 11 cents, actually what it shows. Then they have the heating rate. It's roughly $9 and change for their monthly customer charge. Sweet. And they're only paying roughly 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour. The heating is used, it's somehow or another, they got it. So it's just for the heating in the building. And they have electrical wall heaters on floor, those baseboard heaters. And if you look at the energy use, they used way more than the lift station on the heating, probably not quite 5 times more than the regular city hall. The bill is used 5 times as much electricity and the bill is only half as much. And then you have the lift station, they used a little bit more than the lift station, but they use more than the lift station, but their bill is less. That's because this is the only time we've seen this. And basically, we normally say consolidate it, eliminate one. This is one time that we had to say, you're saving about well over $750 a year when you do this. We don't advise you to disconnect that. Just run with it. You've got the golden goose. You're doing great. That's awesome. Every once in a while, we get to do that. Okay, now we get to the rebates and incentives. Rebates, obviously, Ameren has their energy efficiency program. Oh, I forgot to show you this at the beginning, but there is actually let's get to an Ameren one. They have an energy efficiency investment. So on this location, they're paying $119 a year for energy efficiency. If you think that they're doing that out of the kindness of their heart, I'm sorry to break your heart. It's just not right that we think that way. They are collecting fees on that. They do that. It's basically you get an efficiency program you do in there and you go through their program and do everything you can to get the rebates. When you do that, you have to submit the paperwork. Or the other thing is you go through one of their trade allies that does all of the paperwork for you, and then you get the rebate. Or the trade ally will sometimes just take it off the top of the bill and say, this is how much your rebate is going to be. This is how much it's going to reduce your cost. And that basically reduces your energy, your out-of-pocket expense, and the payback on your investment. Evergy, for their business people, they have a business energy savings program. It's called incentives. You have to sort of look for that one a little bit, and there's some processes to go through that. You can go on their webpage, and they actually have people that you should call up and work with on that. They have different locations, which was in the, I'm going to say ballpark, Kansas City, St. Joe, western part of the state area. They have that. Then we go to the co-ops, Touchstone Energy Group. They also have energy thing for businesses. And if you were to go, like this one is Citizens, they're based out of Perryville. Been working with them a little bit, but here's the residential stuff. But if you have to look a little harder and you go down here to business incentives, and you would go on that, and it'll take you over here to their thing called Power Moves, and you put your zip code in here, and it will tell you what's going on. They have rebates, they have retrofit rebates, lighting retrofits, non-lighting, heads up, variable frequency drives, ballpark. There's if you were to go with something like that, there's significant lighting. I will say this, LED lighting, as a novice in this industry, I've learned quite a bit. the thing I noticed about LED lighting, two places. One of them was after we did the assessment, they put LED lighting in. There was at least a 40% savings on their electric bill because that was just lighting only. Another town, they had a separate street lighting that was fancy, specific to that community. And it was metered street lighting, and they replaced their lighting with LED. And yes, once again, it's about a 40% electrical savings due to the change to LED. My predecessor and I, we talk about this a lot. Jim and I basically say, it's pretty hard to walk into a building and not look up at the lighting and say, oh, we could save some money here. But yeah, after you do that for a while, personally, we have converted a lot of things, our high use areas, to LEDs in our house. Like it a lot. I'm sort of colorblind. We put an LED, probably super bright. They have like Kelvins. The low Kelvins, like 2700, is like the incandescent bulbs. It goes to 4000, which is like natural daylight. Then there's 5000 Kelvin, 5000 Kelvin, which is that bright white light. We put that in our closet, and I can actually tell the difference now between navy blue and black. It's awesome. So yes, LEDs in high use areas, definitely recommend it if you can. Now, for all of us who live in an Ameren, Missouri service area, we have Ameren, Missouri as our electrical provider. This can be at your home, it can be at your community, it could be at your water district, it can be at your sewer district. Please note, they have, and this is a good website to go to if you are served by Ameren. They're selling like light bulbs, like a little bit over $1. They have sales on all the time. 6-pack of dimmable LED 6-watt, which are 40-watt equivalent. A little bit over $6 for a 6-pack. You spend so much, the shipping is free. They only allow you to buy X number of bulbs or packs per year. I will say, yes, I have done it, because if I'm going to recommend it to somebody else, if I can do it, I'm going to do it too. So the only bad part is they don't do the fluorescent tubes. Otherwise, that would be perfect for most of us. But there are so many options on fluorescent. But if you're replacing incandescents in your home or at your offices or at your wells, your lift stations, or anywhere like that you can do that, these do not give off heat. They provide the same amount of lighting or more using less electricity, and it's super cheap. So if you have Ameren, you will have to set up an online account, and you will have to order it through that online account. Okay. All right. Obviously, everything that we do, I notice everything that we do has to have some kind of math involved. Sorry, we'll go over this basically. We're going to talk about the price per 1,000 gallons and the cost per 1,000, and then the kilowatt hours per 1,000 gallons. Why do we want this? Well, it's real simple. We sell by the 1,000 gallons, correct? We also need to know how much it costs us to produce it, buy it, and pump it, or treat it. We need to know those numbers, so going forward, as we have to bill, we have to say, it's costing us this much. We're only charging this. We're actually losing money. So we need to know what it costs us in dollars and cents and in kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours is the reason we want to know that is if we need to do this on our treatment plant or on our well, our wastewater plant. The big thing we need to know is we've got to have meters that work, and we read them on a routine basis. And if we can consolidate that reading with the same time as our electrical bill reading, we're going to get really close. For wells, especially wells and treatment plants, I'm going to go wells. So if we know how many kilowatt hours we have to use to produce 1,000 gallons from our well, if we make any changes to that and all of a sudden it drops off or goes up higher, we know there's a problem, or else we're doing something correct. We've added variable frequency drive. We dropped our energy use. It's a good way to measure that. And then also the price, here's the deal. Pricing can vary so much, because if we have a rate change, we're comparing apples to oranges. If we are using kilowatt hours to 1,000 gallons, it's apples to apples. And this is a basic overview of it. We use our total gallons produced, purchased, treated, and we divide it by 1,000 to get 1,000 gallon units. And we're going to call those 1K units. We take our total kilowatt hours, whether it's a month or a year, and to produce that water in 1,000 gallon units. So we're going to basically take our kilowatt hours divided by 1,000 gallon units to give us our kilowatt hours per 1,000 gallons. And then we take our total. We can do this several ways. We can also just take the energy charges. It works better to do total, because you're getting all the extra charges that they throw on there, like we talked about earlier, that get added on. So basically, we take our total charges and we divide that by the 1,000 gallon units, and gives us our electrical cost. Example is we purchased, produced, treated 143 million gallons in a year. We divide that by 1,000, it gives us 143,000 1K units, or 1,000 gallon units. We used 166,000 kilowatt hours to produce that water, or treat it, or pump it, or move it. And we divide that by our 143,000 1K units, or 1,000 gallon units. It gives us 1.16 kilowatt hours for each 1,000 gallons. And then we have $28,000 in total energy charges. Divide that by 143,000 1,000 gallon units, and gives us roughly about 19.6 cents per 1,000 gallons. That's what it is. Now we're going to take that information, we're going to use that same thing on our water loss. And let me tell you something. There's a lady, I went in there, and part of the thing is we ask, you know what your water loss is? This lady, I hope my face didn't show weirdness, but I was just like, oh my goodness. It was like, what is your water loss? It is this amount, and it's costing us this much. And I'm like, oh my, in my mind, it's like, wow, I can't even remember how much money is in my bank account. And this lady knows the water loss and the percentage and everything. I'm just like, and put it into dollars. It's like, I'm impressed. So yes, I have to say that was just amazing to me. It's like, much respect. Okay, so let's just say we have a 10% water loss. That is the acceptable standard. Anything below that, anything below 10% water loss is awesome. You're doing a great job. And then anything above that is excessive, okay? We try to get it below 10%. If we can't, let's just shoot for 10%. Let's just say we have a 19% water loss. Let's determine the energy use and expenses associated with excessive water loss. So basically, we're going to go from 19% down to 10%. That's 9% reduction. So remember, we had that 143 million divided to get us down to 143,000 1K units. We multiply that by 9%. It gives us 12,870 of those 1K units that we're going to reduce. If we reduce it, well, how much is it going to cost us? How much is it costing us right now? It would be nice to say we're going to get all of it. Let's just shoot for 10%. So we have 12,870 of those units of 1,000 gallon units multiplied by 1.16 kilowatt hours to make that water. And it comes up to roughly 14,929 kilowatt hours. That is extra that we're using. or that we're losing, okay? And if we want to get it into money, we're going to take that 12,870 1,000 gallon units, we multiply it by the 19.6 cents per 1,000 gallon units, comes up to roughly $2,500, a little bit over $2,500 that our water loss is costing us. We can do the same thing with wastewater. As a former operator, the one way we can get people's attention is if we can convert water loss or inflow and infiltration into dollars. We put it into dollars and cents. It works great. It gets people's attention. Oh, this is a problem, you know? We need to take care of it. We need to address it. That's the goal of the assessment of most places. If you can have water production numbers and treatment numbers, that's awesome. Okay, that's all I've really got. I've used up more time than I ever expected. Thank you so much for being so kind. I'm going to stop my sharing and say thank you so much. I'm sorry if I put anybody to sleep, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, that was a lot of information in a short period of time. I think everybody's going to go back and check all their electric bills now and see what they can do to save money. Check to make sure you're not paying those taxes. Check to make sure you're not paying yourself the franchise fees. This is being recorded. So Andy will put this recording up probably next week sometime, I'm going to guess. Look for the notice in our e-newsletter and you can see the presentation again and go back and check. So does anybody have any questions or comments about the subject? And I'm sure if you're interested in having an energy audit done, call Mark. He's looking for systems to do audits on. I'm volunteering you for work, Mark. Sorry.
Thank
But
you.
he can help you look through all of this, you know, if it's a little confusing. But those of you, especially if you have multiple sites that have electric service, you know, this is something to really look into. You could save yourself some money. So be looking into it. I did want to mention about the rounding up issue, Mark, that you mentioned. A lot of utilities they automatically sign you up for the roundup so that you donate to charity. Just be careful with that because technically if you're a public entity, that is not a constitutional use of public funds. And you can like Mark said, catch some grief for that, or possibly in worst case scenario, get in trouble for that. So I don't know that I would recommend that the utility donate to that charity. You personally can on your personal bills, but the public entity probably should not do that. So you might want to double check and make sure you're not doing that. Okay, so we're going to open up. We've got about 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions, comments? We're getting a lot of good comments on the chat box that it was good information. So again, if you want some help going through your information or helping get organized, call us. We'll be glad to help you with that. Okay. All right, I don't see any specific questions. Again, thank you, Mark. That was for putting that together and sharing that knowledge. Again, we do this every month. Don't have a date for next month, but watch the e-newsletter. We also have a Facebook page, the MRWA office Facebook page. If you're not a member of that, search us in Facebook, and it's a private group, so you have to be accepted into the group. We also post it there, and we change topics every month. So if there's a topic you would like to have covered, sometimes it's a formal presentation of like Mark did today, and sometimes it's just a roundtable discussion. We open it up and let everybody ask questions and comment, and just on the topic. So you know, watch for that every month. I'm going to try to do that every month. Usually from 11 to 12, around the middle of the month. So everybody look for that. Yeah, the slides, again, this will be available to you when Andy posts the recording. So, all right. Okay. One quick question off topic. Changes the subject real quick. I've had a couple of questions this past week, and this is going to go back to COVID. Has anyone gotten reimbursement for payroll expenses through their county for COVID expenses? If you have, I'd like to know. Okay, shoot me an email. There's some systems that we're going to go to the county to get reimbursement for the emergency paid sick leave and the emergency family medical leave. And I just kind of like to know how that turned out. Since government agencies aren't eligible for the tax credit, but you still have to pay those wages if someone takes off under COVID. I'd just like to know if you're getting reimbursed for those expenses. So, okay. All right, I don't see anything else. So we're going to sign off. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you next month.